Okay, so I'm going to do an example of a sine curve or sine equation where all four things have changed in the problem. So the A, the B, the C, and the D that we talked about in the lecture. So if we do the amplitude first, that's this number right here. It always is touching sine or cosine directly in front of it. So my amplitude is a 3. That's how far above and below the midline we'll go. Now the midline, a lot of times they'll put it out here, like a minus whatever. But in this case, you can see that it's out front. And so that's a positive 2. So I know my midline is 2. And I would draw in just an imaginary line so I know where my midline's at. And because the amplitude is 3, I will go up 3, so that's 5. My maximum will be at 5. If I go down 1, 2, 3, my midline or my minimum would be at -1. So up 3, down 3. Now in this case, the B value is right here. What's in front of x is a 2. And so for sines and cosines, we always do 2 pi divided by b. And so that's just going to be pi for the period of this function. And the critical points, we always divide by 4. So it's the period divided by 4. Now, I call them critical points, but this is really like what is a spacing between the critical values. And the last thing is take what's in parentheses, set it equal to 0, and then solve for x. So we have to add pi to the other side. Now we divide by 2, and I get x equals pi over 2. So that means I'm going to shift to the right pi over 2. Now, as we go and let's finish our critical points, so now we're going to add pi over 4. So you can, on your calculator, start at 1/2. So remember, take pi out, and then add a fourth, and then hit math, enter, enter, and then you put pi back on top. So the next critical value is 3 pi over 4. Then just keep adding that the critical point spacing, we called it, and that's that pi over 4, so 1 over 4. And then you don't have to hit math, enter, enter, so that's going to be 1 pi. And then you will add a fourth again. Then you hit math, enter, enter, and you keep doing this until you get to 5 critical values. So a half plus a fourth would be 3/4, and 3/4 plus a fourth, that's when we got 1 pi. Add another fourth, that would be 5 pi over 4. And then if I add the last one, whether you did the calculator or you do this one, you get 6 pi over 4, which would reduce to 3 pi over 2. Now remember, this is my last critical value. That one is my first. So anytime you do the last minus the first, 3 pi over 2 minus pi over 2 is 2 pi over 2, which reduces to pi. You should end up with the period of the function whenever you do last minus first. All right, so I think we're ready to graph this thing. Because it's a sine curve, we will start on the midline. So my first critical value is always where that phase shift was. So we'll start at the midline. And sine curves always go up, excluding flips and all those other things. They want to go from midline to their maximum. And then they'll come back to the midline. Make sure you get the minimum underneath the x-axis at -1, and then back to the midline. So the curve would look something like this. This is one period of the sine curve.